Hey everyone, my name is Sean Cecil from the Oculus Institute, and today we're going to talk about the inner bully. I was in a situation a while back where I was working with somebody who was having a lot of trouble getting stuff done. It was within their skill set, but they were, and I quote, just spazzing out instead of doing the work. And there were a couple things that came up during that discussion that are dynamics that I've seen pretty frequently and that I wanted to bring to your attention, because if you're in a situation where you're not taking action on something that you ostensibly want to be taking action on, then let's take a look and see if these dynamics might be at play. So the first one, the one that I'm going to talk about in this video, is the inner bully. So the inner bully is the part of you that goes off and says, hey, you can't do this, you're not good enough, you don't deserve this, etc., etc., etc. And this, most people have this to a fairly significant extent. There are a couple people who have mostly tamed it. Very, very, very few have gotten rid of it entirely. Not saying that there aren't some, there are some who've gotten rid of it entirely. But most people often find themselves at the effect of this idea that somehow they're not worthy, right? And this can take two forms, right? One is where it can take the form of, I'm not worthy in general, I don't deserve to be happy, other people are more important than me kind of stuff, which again is not normally on the surface unless you start digging for it, and then you're like, holy crap, like can't believe I'm saying this to myself. And then the other form that it can take is imposter syndrome in a specific area where you say, hey, listen, I'm not good enough to perform this task, when in reality, you are more than capable of performing the task, right? So let's deal with the first one first, and then the second one after that. So the first one, this general, I don't deserve to be happy, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I deserve to suffer kind of, base assumptions, which manifest in, all kinds of, hypercritical self-talk on top of it, right? That is something where, people try to get around this because they'll try to tell themselves they're good enough. They'll just try to like affirmation their way out of it. But that almost never works. Normally stuff like this comes from first childhood, right? Very critical parents, sometimes, abusive parents, sometimes situations that you wouldn't necessarily expect, like role reversals. Like if you have a parent who's an alcoholic and you're taking care of them, then you don't build a sense of self. And then you're constantly subject to other people's opinions of you in all areas of life if you don't take the action to build that sense of self. There's a book called 5 Personality Patterns that talks about like the merging pattern, which I would highly recommend if this sounds like you have something to consider, right? But if you're in that situation, right, you want to go and you really want to dig into what makes someone worthy, right? What makes somebody deserve happiness? Like, what does that even mean, right? Because one thing that I've found is that there is no metric of worthiness. Is an iceberg worthy? Is the planet Jupiter worthy? Like, what does it even mean? It's a nonsense question. It's not answerable. There's no metric. And so people have this little inner bureaucrat there saying, give me your papers and prove you're worthy every day, right? And even if you submit your papers and you say, look, this is how I look, and this is my spouse, and this is my income, look, I'm worthy. And he goes, okay, maybe today, and gives you a stamp and sends off. You still have to do the same thing next day, right? Like, I just stopped submitting my papers because I realized it's a dumb question that can never be answered. And I don't play games that are unwinnable. Right? And so when you really just stop allowing yourself to even think in those terms, stop treating it as a question of yes or no, stop trying to tell yourself you are, and just realize that it's just a loop in the mind that never ends and makes no sense, right? That's the way that you really break out of it. And a good way to ask yourself is if you say, hey, listen, this thing happened, so I'm a failure, then ask yourself, would you say that another person is a failure because they did that exact same thing? And if there's a double standard, then chances are that's almost, I shouldn't say chances are, almost certainly that's just the inner bully. And then that brings us to the second thing with this imposter syndrome. where it's a specific thing where you say, hey, I'm not good enough to complete this task. I just don't have the skill set. Well, if you have an inner bully with this fundamental self-worth issue, then it's going to magnify all other self-criticism. And you're not going to be looking at your skill set objectively. You're not going to be looking at it realistically, right? So first you have to deal with that root, general sense of worthiness. And then you want to go look at the data, right? So if you're in a situation where you're looking at the data and you're like, oh, well, I've done this before, but I don't know if I can do it this time. And you find yourself trying to argue for your own limitations, then that's a sign that you haven't dealt with that root self-worthiness, right? So at the end of the day, again, this is a really common issue in society. It's a really common issue in coaching. You've got to go and you've got to work through that. And if there's specific things that you've done in your past that you feel you need to, make atonement for, then go do that. That's fine, right? But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you're not subject to a loop of, am I worthy or am I good enough or am I a failure, when that question has no meaning, has no evidence procedure, and can never be answered because, it ultimately is based in nothing.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If there's something that resonated with you, maybe a new connection that you made or some information that shifted your perspective, if you found value here, then I want to give you one last gift. So I've put together a free diagnostic that I call a checkup with the career doctor. Short list of questions, and as you answer them, it's going to give you a readout of where you stand on the important metrics of career fulfillment, right? How happy are you with your job and how good a fit is it, right? Financial success, which we all know, and then internal alignment, which is your level of inner peace and the inner resources that you have to bring to creating the life that you want. Additionally, it's also going to show you which areas you can improve on to get those metrics moving in the right direction, as well as how can we at the Oculus Institute help you make progress. So it's totally free, 100%. All you have to do is just go to www.oculusinstitute.com/purpose quiz, right? No spaces, no dashes, just oculusinstitute.com. That's OCULUSINSTITUTE.com/purpose quiz. And you can take it totally for free. You'll get a free report sent to you. And then at the end, it will give you some next steps of what you can do to reach out so that we can help you create the career of your